Hello everyone, welcome to the third part of this mini-series about corporate level strategies, and I'm going to talk about related and unrelated diversification. So let's start by explaining related diversification. This is a corporate level strategy based on the goal of establishing a business unit in a new industry related to the company existing business units. In other words, we're going to expand our business to a new industry, but we're going to expand it to something that is similar to what we already do. And here the concept is that we're using is the concept of commonality that I explained in previous videos, or sharing of competencies. And this is the basis of most multi-business models that we see, because indeed it's a conglomerate, for example, that will have many different businesses, but all the businesses are kind of related to each other. So here we're taking the advantage of strong commonalities that can be modified to increase the competitive advantage. So in other words, why expand to something completely different when we can expand to something that we kind of already know how to do? So this will allow as well the company to use any general organizational competencies that it already possesses. And here the best example I think is when Facebook decided to acquire Instagram. So they expanded their business to something that it's very similar to what they already did. Unrelated diversification, on the other hand, is a corporate level strategy that uses general organizational competencies to increase the performance of all the company's business units. And here is the concept of conglomerate. So we're talking about when we have a business that has many different types of business inside its properties. So we're talking here about the use of internal capital markets. So this is when a corporate level strategy where the firm's headquarters assesses the performance of different business units and allocates money according to that performance. And a good example of a conglomerate is General Electric, because General Electric has many different types of business in it: aviation, capital, digital, healthcare, lighting, power, renewable energies, global research, and so on. But actually, all of them are very different, and there's many advantages here, obviously, because basically you diversify your risk much more, but at the same time you don't have any sense of commonality here, and it might be harder to start a new business unit and make it successful. So there are many disadvantages to diversification, obviously, so let's get started by exploring them. First of all, this creates many changes in the industry or in the company as well, and this can be dangerous on the sense that you are creating a big change, for example, in terms of management, in terms of technology. And therefore, specifically these two changes, what can mean is that whenever there's a big change, there's also a high probability of failure, and therefore this is what I mean that it is a disadvantage. Also, you might be diversifying for the wrong reasons. For example, you might be diversifying to pooling risks, for example. In other words, try to divide the risks of your business when in reality maybe the business already has some issues that should be first addressed. Okay, maybe you're trying to enter into the wrong business, or at the wrong time, or for the wrong reasons. And therefore, this can be very dangerous indeed for the business if you're not diversifying for the right reasons. Okay. Also, there's bureaucracy costs, because the cost associated with solving transaction difficulties between business units and corporate headquarters, there's going to be much more paperwork, and because not all businesses, let's say, speak the same language, obviously you're going to need much more administrative staff and much more money that will be spent on bureaucracy, like I mentioned. So on this bureaucracy cost, there's a couple of factors here responsible for that: the number of business units in the company portfolio, and the degree to which coordination is required to realize the advantages of this diversification as well. So typically what would happen, for example, is that when we talk about coordination, let me just give an example. Coordination means that sometimes you might have central activities. Before, in a previous video, I said if you have two different business units, you might not need two different HR departments, for example. And this is what we mean with coordination. Now let's pick up this example. We have a head office and we have a marketing and sales department in it. Now in this business, we have, for example, bottled water and soda is what we're producing, and these two businesses are similar. Therefore, our marketing, sales, and communication is the same channels. And you might decide, let's centralize all of this in the head office. Now the problem is that since marketing and sales is going to be the one that is actually doing the communication to the customer, they also have to manage now the communication from the bottled water business unit and from the soda business unit. Now, imagine what it is if sometimes trying to sell a product to one person is already hard. Imagine what it is to try to sell a product to a person, but at the same time having two other people next to you that are trying to speak to you at the same time. And therefore, it really does require much more coordination, and this is the reason why I say that it can be a disadvantage. So let's see the differences here, therefore, about related and unrelated diversification. All right. So first of all, in related diversification, the company's competencies can be applied across a greater number of industries, and the company has superior strategic capabilities that will allow it to keep its bureaucratic costs under control. So in other words, indeed, this is the two main advantages that, in my opinion, are related to related diversification. But on the other hand, unrelated diversification, the company's top manager, if they are skilled at raising profitability of poorly run businesses, this can be a great business opportunity as well. But again, only if the top management is really up to that task. And the other thing is that the company managers will also use their strategic management competencies to develop two things: to develop and to improve the competitive advantage of all the business units, and also to keep bureaucratic costs under control. So as you can see, the two approaches have merits, have problems, but overall I believe that it is really a matter of seeing what kind of risk does your business is willing to take. This is just a quick example to show, for example, how Sony has actually developed their corporate level strategies. So actually they have done related diversification, for example, through computers, smartphones, phones, tablets, and so on. But they also have done unrelated diversification through the internal venturing, for example, of PlayStation, which was something completely different than what they were doing before. But at the same time, they have done forward integration, vertical integration as well, for forward vertical integration and backwards vertical integration. So for example, on the backwards vertical integration, they started creating their own products, production of their own electronic components. But on the forward vertical integration, they started creating their own music, their own videos and music and movies, for example. So actually Sony, as you can see, is a company that expanded in all four directions when it came to diversification, and this is extremely rare. That's why it's such a good example of a company that has achieved quite a good degree of success in all of them. So to summarize, there's many different types of diversification here we can do. Like I said, we can do related diversification or unrelated diversification. Each one of them has advantages and disadvantages, but ultimately it's about how much risk a company is willing to take. Thank you very much for watching the video. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you on the next video for this mini series.